Happy Friday. Welcome to another episode of Finish Line Fridays. Let's finish the week strong. I'm your host, Fadi George, and today we will be covering SaaS PPC, so pay-per-click campaigns for software companies, how to launch a successful campaign. For the agenda today, we will be going through a pre-launch checklist, do's and don'ts, and then some tips that we've seen from out in the battlefield. So let's start with the pre-launch checklist. So we've seen two different extremes where people have gone super heavy into it and not seen much ROI out of it, and then the other end where there's been main concerns. So where you want to kick things off, your positioning and messaging framework, you need to have that clearly defined. So I've put language there, and that the language that you use. The audience, having your personas defined, very clearly defined. And essentially the way we do that in a typical B2B SaaS buyer journey is typically you'll have the user, the manager, and the executive. Focus. Make sure that your keywords are, your keyword research is done. So you have all the research that you need and that you have the topics that you want prioritized. Not just the keywords. So we do recommend prioritizing top 10 keywords, but we do recommend topic prioritization because then it opens up the opportunity for expansion and creativity around content, which leads to the next piece, content. So you want to make sure that your content's ready and prepped beforehand, and the creative is ready as well, whether it's images or video. Targeting. So the targeting is made up of your audience, your focus, and your content. So make sure that's defined, who you're going after for each of your ads, each of your ad groups, each of your campaigns, who the audience is, what the focus keywords or topics are, and then what the content's going to be. Next is conversion. So make sure that your landing pages are optimized. This is optimized not just for the terms, but optimized with the right graphics, with your branding, aligned with your language. So making sure that the language from the positioning and messaging is echoed. So all the way from your ad down into your landing page, you want to make sure that's included, as well as following some of the standard best practices from conversion rate optimization, whether it's the form lengths, whether it's the visibility of what you're offering, if it's the checklist visibility, how far people scroll down the page, social proof, etc., etc. Making sure all those are in place again before launching anything. Visibility, so not just tracking and attribution, but also that the reporting is in place. Set it up and make sure it's tested. So next is investment. You've got your budget, which is defined and based on your goals. If that makes sense for you from a customer acquisition standpoint, does the investment then justify it? Because ultimately you have a certain amount of traffic coming in, and so you want to make sure that the budget is clear and expectations are set for what you're going to get out of it, whether it's actual conversions, if you expect that, or if it's initial learnings for that. And I do think there needs to be an investment budget assigned based off your goals, whatever those goals may be. And lastly, planning. So have your campaign planned out, what those goals are, and what the success looks like. Making sure that the KPIs are defined to measure that success is going to be super important. If the goal is going to be around what we would mark as MQLs, so an MQL is basically someone who's raised their hand for either a sales conversation or a demo. If that's your goal, then great, let that be your KPI and work everything towards that and make sure that you have those in place. If it's just lead gen, same thing. If you want people to download your latest ebook, then that's a good goal to have as well. Again, base it on your goals and tie it back to what you're willing to invest. So that was your pre-launch checklist. Do's and don'ts. There are so many do's and so many don'ts. Essentially what I've done here for you is I tried to get some do's by reflecting them in the don'ts. So we'll go through the list. For the do's, make sure that you have tracking links. Tracking links per ad group, not just a general tracking link per campaign. You don't want to spend too much time digging through data, and having tracking links at the ad group level gives you just that faster visibility into data so you can make quicker decisions on your campaigns. Heat maps. So of course you're going to have your landing pages. Always important to have up. There's a lot of free tools Clarity by Microsoft, Hotjar is free as well for a certain amount of visitors. So just get something. If you're using Hotjar or Clarity, both of them actually offer screen recording, so you can see how people are engaging. If there's bounce rates, you can see what they interact with before they leave, and then that gives you opportunities of what to optimize to either try keep people longer on the page, or if you wanted to basically get them to convert more, if they're consuming content but not converting, how you can actually optimize the page for that. A/B test. Essentially what you want to do is quickly learn from your different ads. So rather than like launching one campaign and seeing what happens, trying it again with a slight variation on a landing page, if you've taken your learning cycle from a month down to 2 weeks, now you're that far ahead. So especially if you can collect enough data in that time frame. So of course, enough statistical significance is what matters, but having A/B tests is very important. Retargeting with video, absolute must. Do not forget to do this, even if the video is a screen recording of you going through your product, and then putting out some call outs on that just to draw people's attention. It's always helpful to keep your brand top of mind, especially in the B2B buying journey these days. People are often exploring multiple brands. They'll likely come back during their buyer journey. So make sure that you're staying top of mind, having multiple retargeting campaigns so you can actually get fancy with that. First touch and last touch attribution, very important. We use HubSpot, but whatever tool that you use, make sure that you have your first touch and last touch. Essentially what you want to do is see which of your campaigns are bringing people in, right? Which ones are attracting people to your site, and then which ones are converting them. As you develop more campaigns, then it allows you to segment those off and then see where you can double down on some of the campaigns that actually drive conversions on the last touch. Manual bidding initially. So manual bidding initially, and then make your adjustments accordingly as you've collected some conversion data and some traffic data. Measure costs through the full funnel. So from the leads to MQLs to SQLs to opportunities, right? Every dollar you spend, get that mapped to a cost per lead, cost per MQL, cost per SQL, and then as your customers come through and go through the buyer journey and become customers, very helpful to have that for you as a marketer or as a marketing leader. It's important for you to have that visibility and be able to communicate that with your stakeholders or investors. Don'ts. Don't run banner ads initially. Maybe later, but they don't work that well, especially for driving results, right? You want to get early results. Banner ads are not going to get you results. So you'll get probably people reaching out to you for running ads through associations or whatever it is. Don't do it. Run only one campaign. No, do not do that. Run multiple campaigns in order to collect data. The same point about getting data from the different ad groups is you want to have different campaigns running so you can learn quickly and make adjustments on what's actually working. Do not forget keyword research. Do not forget messaging. Do not forget personas. Don't forget ad extensions either. This is essential. I've put here free real estate. So essentially your Google search result has a box and space for you to run ads. Ad extensions don't cost you anything extra, but essentially what they are, it's if you look at an ad and then you see like almost like sections to the website or links to certain pieces of information or resources, that's really just you expanding your ads, like getting more of that screen real estate. I highly recommend doing it. It's screen real estate that if you don't do it, your competition is, and then if they do that, they're essentially capturing that top of the fold, and of course looking more like an authority than what small ads would be that have been done with less effort. Also, one thing with ad extensions, because they're typically the way they're set up, if you're going to do them on Google Ads, you would want to include tracking URLs for the site link extensions, because it's going to help with that attribution as well to see what people actually engage with. Don't target broad terms, big waste of money unless you've got the budget to invest in learning. And don't listen to Google ad support. Period. It's counterintuitive. Google likes Google. Google likes to make money. And every single interaction I've seen with Google Ad support has been about increasing budget or about going broader with search terms. Every single time. If it's not the ad support, guess what? It's the recommendations on the Google in the Google portal. Use your own data to decide what you want to do. And once you've captured enough of it, feel free to leverage maybe some of those recommendations, but usually they're expanding. Don't do it unless you feel really confident about that recommendation. And then just some tips. I've covered some of them in the earlier points. Tracking. So use keywords, personas, or the modifiers. So when you're doing A/B tests on ads, you can put like A or B in the modifier in your tracking URLs. Super helpful when it comes time to seeing what you can actually allocate revenue to and what's actually driving conversion. Some ads might drive leads, some ads might drive customers, right? So if you have enough data, it's always going to be helpful for you to make those decisions. Which personas are coming in, right? Which keywords are converting? Always good to have. If you have it in your tracking parameters, it's going to be a huge win for you. If you have a tool like HubSpot, it's actually going to feed into the campaign data, and then you can actually filter by those elements when you have that tracking in place. Funnel focus, bottom of the funnel up. Of course, depending on your budget, is going to be helpful for immediate results, especially when it's around conversions. Work your way from the bottom of the funnel up, especially when you think of search terms like on Google Ads, running search ads. Data to inspire. So use the data from paid campaigns to drive your organic efforts, because essentially you're paying not just for running the ads, but you're paying for the data. So they don't have it available for organic. So the way that you capture it is by running your ads and then using that data to actually feed into your organic efforts to create content. Rank for it organically. Guess what? Now your ad's going to show up, and if you do well, then your organic listing is going to show up, and now you have 2 spots on page 1. Statistical significance. I talked about this throughout the entire slide deck. So aim for about 600 visits to your landing page. Roughly around 600 gives you enough data to be able to make some good decisions on what's working on that landing page and what's not. More data. So leverage Facebook for testing on visual ads and then measure performance by clicks. So essentially you've got your positioning and messaging defined, right? The ad copy is defined, the value props defined. Whatever ads that you're going to run them visually. So if it's through a graphic or a video, and present those messages, those value props, the reasons to believe in your product or the reason to actually come and engage with you, and then measure what actually gets traffic or what actually performs from a clicks standpoint. Think of like emails, right? The email open rate is a reflection of a good subject line, right? It's not a reflection of a good email. It's just a good reflection of the subject line. That's what the open rate is. So the open rate of an ad is going to be the KPI for the value that you're communicating through your ads. That's going to be super helpful. And actually visual ads cost per 1,000 views on advertising. It's actually really cost efficient to collect a lot of data that way. Highly recommend it. Retargeting. I mentioned this one. Expand your reach with lookalike audiences on Facebook. That essentially becomes an infinite loop, right? Website visitors will see the ad. They'll watch, let's say 50, 75%. You go and find more people like them and then run ads towards them. Then you can say, okay, for those people who engaged with this much of this ad, I want to find more people like them, and so on and so forth. And that's kind of the infinite loop, right? Of people seeing your ads and then you showing your ads to enough people similar to them from the way they've engaged with your content. So it's just nice to be able to leverage all that usage data around your ads and then be able to be more and more targeted, and the algorithm is actually work in your favor in that regard. That's the one way you can kind of leverage those algorithms to feed you traffic. So that is it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, we'll be sharing a form to submit your questions. If you have anything that you want to cover, leave it in the comments, send me a message, or leave it in the form, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good one.